Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. It is Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sports Reports Order. Those are the sounds that you're hearing. He is Mr. Logical. I am 2-5. We got a lot to get into tonight. We are going to talk about Darryn Peterson. Is he hurting his draft stock? Should he be the number 1 draft pick? Hell, should he be the number 2 draft pick? We're going to talk about if we would change our NBA Finals picks at the beginning of the season. Who's going to be the MVP? And of course, you know we got to talk about the Chicago Bears. But first, Mr. Logical and I are going to continue a conversation that we started last week. But before we do that, like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things, liquid death in hand. And let's get right to it. So, Mr. Logical, last week, you know, we had or I guess it was days ago, actually. We had our big conversation about tanking the NBA draft. Can you fix it? Is there anything to fix? So you told me that you had a little idea. I got an idea too, but the floor is yours.
I got a simple yet salient idea.
What up, Scott?
Get rid of the one and done. Just flat out get rid of the one and done and go back to where you let the internet and whatever social media propaganda hype up your number 1 guys, your top guys. Let the NBA teams bring them in for a draft and bring them in riding the hype train, because what happens is a lot of guys are projected to be NBA guys off of all this social media attention that they're getting, and then they go to college and they get picked apart. And then by the time they get to the NBA, or they get flat out just overlooked. So all these guys who the McDonald's All-Americans, your top 5, 10 guys every year, instead of making them go to college and learn the pick and roll or learn all these little sets that they're not going to run in the NBA, because more likely they're going to be the man with the ball in their hands, pick and pop, pick and roll, free-flowing offense, a lot of threes. They're playing a completely different style that you're not seeing them do in college. They're essentially wasting a year of their body. So get rid of the one and done. And considering that you have guys who are in the G League want to go back to college, it's not like the NCAA is going to be, absent of talent, because guys are staying 4, 5, 6 years to play college basketball anyway. So the guys who want to do their one and done, just get rid of that rule, because you don't need it now because of all the NIL and everything else. Let them go straight to the league.
Yeah, yours is less complicated than mine. And
that's why I went first.
Well, it's kind of funny
literally
too.
Like 25 minutes ago.
Well, it's kind of funny too, because I was going to bring up the one and done in respect to the Darryn Peterson conversation. So I guess we'll come back to that. But no, mine was about the draft process itself, because I don't want to get rid of the NBA draft or anything like that. Like things that I've been hearing people say. So, like, for example, I saw Adam Silver's new proposals of, how to stop tanking. I did like one of them, of freezing the odds at the trade deadline. Because, if you're going to tank from the gate, then there ain't no hope for you anyway. But generally speaking, everybody should be trying to win, at least I would say games 1 through 20. And then, if you're sitting there at 5 and 15, you're kind of like, hey, you know what? This is a lost cause. So I like the trade deadline, because to your point, because we argue about the play-in a lot. But, if you freeze it at the trade deadline, then there's no reason to tank after that. You know what I mean? Like, because you're just where you are. But what I would like to propose is we were talking about soccer and relegation, and of course soccer has their table, where you get 3 points for a win, 1 for a draw, So what I was thinking of is no play-in team can win the number 1 draft pick, first of all. So like Dallas won it last year as a play-in team. So whoever loses the play-in, you're slotted in the draft at those spots, whatever those next spots are that aren't the bottom 8 that didn't make the playoffs at all. From there, I know there's been talk about a tournament. Adam Silver wanted a tournament potentially to play for the number 1 draft pick. Instead of that tournament, reward the teams that aren't tanking. So give them 3 points for their win, and then so on and so forth. And then whoever wins or however that sets up at the end of the season, that's where you have your point system. So whoever has the most points gets the number 1 draft pick, and it goes from there. And to your point, Scott, I think people did have a problem with the tanking a couple of years ago with Sam Hinkie. We did have the problem. I just didn't have a podcast then. But at the time, Stephen A. Smith was definitely against it from day one, what Sam Hinkie was doing. And, you could argue. It
kind of felt entertaining. I'm not going to lie. To think about it, I didn't have any adverse feelings about it. It felt oddly entertaining. Like when they shipped off Michael Carter Williams because he was upset
after he won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he won Rookie of the Year, and he was upset about a loss, and they traded him. I just thought it was comical, but yeah, keep going.
Well, I think for me, it was more like he was upfront about it. You know what I mean? These teams that are playing today, like Utah, teams like that, they played the first 50 some odd games of the season and then decided like, hey, you know what? We're just going to start benching starters now in the middle of games where we're up by 17 points, and I think that, from that standpoint, that's what I don't like about it. Whereas Sam Hinkie told you to plan, like, we're going to try to accumulate the best talent that we can, because to be truthful, to this point where we are in the NBA lexicon right now, is that you have to be bad to get good. If you're certain teams, we talked about this the other day. People aren't going to Utah. People aren't necessarily going to New Orleans or Sacramento of their own volition. That's just like Russell Westbrook didn't want to be in Sacramento. He just ended up there because nobody else wanted him. You know what I mean? So like a team like Sacramento has to bottom out and then get a Darryn Peterson, AJ Devonshire, so on and so forth, and try to build from there. So I don't know. But Adam Silver, to your point, Scott, Adam Silver didn't necessarily speak out publicly against it because it probably wasn't a problem in this way. It was in the beginning stages. And at that time, to our knowledge, Philly was the only team that we looked at as, hey, this team is tanking because they put it on paper. You know what I mean? But now you got the whole league, or not the whole league, obviously, hyperbole. You got a lot of the league taking games off, taking seasons off. That just can't happen in a competitive sport. But, but I just wanted to share that, So real quick before we move on, Sam, was that too complicated?
No, not really. When you said I wrote this down. So you said the trade deadline would be your line of demarcation.
Yeah, that's what Silver came up with. Yes.
I like March 10th because you make some trades and maybe you think you can go on a run. Like Dallas did last year. They made the trade for Luka. Granted, we all thought it was a terrible trade, but they felt like that trade was going to be like the thing that catapulted them to the playoffs. And it didn't work out. And I think we kind of knew around mid-March. I believe that's when Kyrie got injured, like early March. You knew what. So I say, for like March 10th, you go like a month after the All-Star game, trade deadline, everything else. You see if you could turn it around, but your standings on March 10th. And then when you said the top 20, if you make the play-in, because that's the top 20 of the 30, now I think the lottery balls go 1 through 10. Just those 10 teams, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, it would be 1 through 8 because I'm not letting the play-in teams.
Yeah,
like even if you made the play-in,
20 teams. So that's 10 and 10. So it's like 10 teams left over.
Right, but two of them made the play-in. They just didn't advance. So I'm not letting those two
it's
with the bottom. Yeah,
because it goes 1 through 10. Yeah, so 1 through 10 each conference, and then 5 for each conference don't make it. So 10 don't even make the play-in. See what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So
and to your point, Scott,
and then we only put those guys in the lottery, and everybody else works their way out after that.
And you know what? For your last comment, Scott, you served too many years in the military to be thinking like that. You know
I remember my first, hey, we're all going in this together. It's like, yeah, all the boys are in trouble, but the girls aren't. I'm like, what? The boys messed up. Oh, I thought we was one squadron. They're like, nope. The boys are smoking, so all y'all in trouble.
Here we go. You know what I'm saying? Me and you go off into the wild blue yonder. Are the Bears going over to Hoosier land?
I was in the car, right, with my son, one of his basketball teammates, and the dad. And I was talking about this yesterday, we were texting, and it was like, I was like, it just doesn't make any sense. I get that Chicago, as far as proximity to Northwest Indiana, is pretty close. And then I was thinking,
closer
all right,
to East Rutherford.
Yeah, so I was thinking like very similar to the New York Jets, just playing in Jersey. They can still call themselves Chicago Bears, but if they don't, my son was like, they got to change their logo. They can't have the iconic C on the helmet anymore. And I'm like, just that alone, I was I don't like it. I just don't like it. Just off of that. If they're gonna change, if they're gonna play in Indiana, that's fine. But is it gonna be conducive for the Chicago fans who live around Chicago to get there? Like, I don't know what the traffic pattern is. Like I said, if you live in New York and you're a Jet or Giants fan, getting across the Hudson to get to the game is not that complicated. Like, there's buses and trains, gets you right there. It seems like a logistical nightmare, but it's close.
So what's that, Scott? I-55, right? I think that's I-55
through Chicago, like the Midwest.
Yeah. From Chicago to where the stadium would be.
I've only gone like east and west through Illinois, so I only know the ones that end in 0, so like 70 and 80. I know those ones because I've just done east and west when I did that drive. I get if it's just location, but like I said, I went to Atlanta last summer, and the Uber driver, she was saying that it was a Beyonce concert was going on, and the MLB All-Star game, and the concert was at the stadium, and she was saying, well, when they moved the Braves out of like downtown and moved them to the outskirts, it just basically eliminated the public transportation fan from getting to the game.
It surely did. Bomani Jones talks about that all the time.
So she that was a big piece because she was like, you're so far out there. People don't really take Ubers that far out because it just kind of moved to like more of a more upper middle class neighborhood and surrounding area.
That's what it was. They took it away from the hood, for lack of better words.
And there's like, I wouldn't say no, but it's not as an abundance of public transportation to get there. So if they're moving from wherever they are in Illinois to Indiana, but there's no pipeline to get the fans there without excessive driving or parking or whatever the case may be, then I think that's a fallacy. But if it's just a matter of them playing in Indiana the way that the Jets and Giants play in New Jersey, I got no problem with it. But if it eliminates the fan experience, then that's why I have the problem.
Yeah, so I don't have my problem with this move, if it happens, is superficial. You know what I mean? So Hammond, is still considered to be a part of Chicago land. So that's why I don't think they need to change the name, because you still have your pieces of Wisconsin and Indiana that fall into that Chicagoland category. To me, the issue is more or less identity from the standpoint of, I can't imagine the Packers moving away from Lambeau. You know what I mean? Like, even if it was just to go to Milwaukee, my brain can't fathom that. You know what I mean? Because when we look around the NFL, And that's a good call, Scott. Train is closer, and Hammond is actually closer to Soldier Field than Arlington Heights is. But the Commanders don't play in DC, and haven't for quite some time. The 49ers play in Santa Clara. Buffalo plays in Orchard Park, so on and so forth. Dallas and Arlington, or I guess, Arlington. So like all these teams don't necessarily play in the city of their namesake. The thing that makes this one a little blurry is the state line thing. And just like we just saw recently, the Chiefs are going to be moving from Missouri over to the Kansas side. So I think when I was looking at this, there was a couple of things at play, and it all depends on who you believe. If you listen to Kevin Warren, former Big Ten commissioner, Chicago Bear president, it comes down to taxes. So it sounds like, from what he's saying, it sounds like the Bears are willing to foot the bill, but they want certain tax protections from the state of Illinois. So, we'll front the money for the stadium, but just don't be charging us $33 million in property taxes and things like that. Because as soon as they bought the property, and this is according to him, as soon as they bought the property, it was like, boom, this is going to be the tax there. And it's like, there's nothing there right now. What are you taxing? You're literally just taxing the land. You know what I'm saying? And then to Scott's point about the Illinois government, I was reading as I was going down my rabbit hole, Chicago has paid, the Bears have paid everything that they owed to the renovations and everything that came along with upgrading Soldier Field about 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Whereas Illinois is still in debt to that because they kept refinancing. They're doing everything with the money, but what they're supposed to do with the money is my interpretation of what Kevin Warren is trying to get across. You know what I mean? Now, on the other side, Illinois, I think, is just looking at this as, you're the Chicago Bears, you can't leave. And they just didn't take the Bears seriously, that the Bears ever would leave, because this is the identity. Your identity is Chicago. And the Bears are like, no, Chicago's identity is us.
See, that's where I was having a conversation.
Hold on real quick. Let me say one more thing real quick, just to tie it up real quick. And this isn't new, because the White Sox, had threatened a few times to move to Florida. So this is an Illinois issue in the end, regardless of who's right or wrong.
But what we saw it in Oakland, it depends on whose fish story you want to believe. If you want to believe the California government saying like, hey, we offer them, more than viable plans and great plans and ideas and renovations and timelines to fix the stadium they had in like Alameda County. But they just wanted to go to Vegas. And then if you hear from the A side, they were like, hey, we don't think this was adequate enough or timely enough, and we asked for a long time, we're going to Vegas. So it depends on what side of the coin you want to read. We saw it with San Diego and when they moved to LA. Granted, it's still in California. If they would have moved to Arizona, I think it might have been a bit of a gripe, but the California fans could still get from San Diego fans could still get to Los Angeles. Granted, it's a little bit more of a drive. And I'm looking up the distance between from downtown to Hammond is like 19 to 22 miles, so about 20 to 40 minutes driving.
And then you factor in traffic, that probably turns into the hours.
Which is traffic which is gonna do that. Just
I'll tell you why, Scott.
Sporting event anyway. But like I said, when you hear Chicago, you hear Green Bay, you hear all these cities, and you just think, like Rajon talked about the other day when we were having that conversation. He was like, listen, just because we've done things in this box the one way forever doesn't mean you can't change it. So, like I said, the New Jersey, New York football names, titles, stadium, having a personal, buy into that as far as like traveling to that stadium and watching games there and seeing games there and just kind of using the traveling system around here. It's not that complicated for a local fan to get to MetLife Stadium and see the Jets play. So I imagine that from Chicago, it won't be that difficult to get to Indiana. It just you got to figure out the money. And I know if they're building a new stadium, it's going to be a dome, which I'm probably more upset about it being a dome than even wherever they play. The fact that it's a dome leads me back to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about like you need to have the elements of your environment play in your favor. Like if you let every team come here and play in comfortable temperatures, you might get your ass kicked just because now it's comfortable. But if you get, like if you get 2 outside under 40 degrees, you're going to win. So I think that's probably more upsetting. But like I said, a team having one city's namesake and playing in a different state is not abnormal. It's just because it's Chicago.
Ain't nobody say nothing about Denver.
Denver doesn't need a dome. That's the advantage you have. That mile high, straight off I-25 that you have. That's all the elements that makes it. It's cold. It sucks, but like football should be played outside. But like I said, interstate, cross-state lines playing football doesn't make a big deal as long as the original Chicago fans can still have relatively easy access to the stadium.
So the Jets and Giants are a little different because the way I remember it, and I wasn't even born, I think, when they moved to East Rutherford, but the way that I remember it was there just wasn't anywhere feasible within the city to build a stadium.
They were playing like you had to stadium.
Right. I know the Jets were at Shea Stadium and the Giants were
Yankee Stadium.
Right. So that was a logistical problem. From what I could tell, Illinois doesn't have a logistical problem because, they were talking about Arlington Heights at one point, to which that brought my favorite moment of this whole saga was Lori Lightfoot. I'm not sure if I don't think she's still the mayor there, but she was the mayor there at the time of this when it started. And she goes, they should focus on beating the Packers. That's so Chicago. But anyway, so Indiana just decided, like, we're just going to screw our taxpayers to come up. So that's how Indiana got it done so quickly, because Indiana said, we are willing to do anything possible for this to happen. So, so in these situations, there's a lot of hardball. When Art Modell moved the Ravens or the Browns and they became the Ravens, the Indians had just got a new stadium. That was before the Guardians. Don't cancel me. Then there was the Cavaliers. They got a new arena. So Art Modell goes, well, hey, we're the Cleveland Browns. Like, football's the cash cow. Where's our stadium? And then it was kind of like, yo, go F yourself. Baltimore and Indianapolis, Baltimore. So these cities play hardball, except for Buffalo, I guess, because the city of Buffalo is paying 60 to 65% of this $1.5 billion stadium that the Bills are trying to build. So I think the Bears, or I think Chicago, was looking at this and going, work with us. Like,
everybody wants to host a Super Bowl.
That's where the dome's coming in.
Everyone wants a dome to host a Super Bowl. I'm like, there's only one of those a year. And the cities that have proven year after year are going to get that rotation. So if there's a projected list right now, like they have for the next 15 years, you probably have Miami on there 2 or 3 times randomly. Like I said, you got LA next year. You could probably sprinkle Vegas in 2 to 3 times in the next 15. Who else? Atlanta has a dome. You could probably throw them in there somewhere. So all these places, New Orleans obviously has it. So all these places already have a
so the next three
infrastructure.
The next 3 are SoFi, the Compressor, and then Allegiant.
So the NFL's already letting you know. I think we're locking in the 4 places. We have 3 domes that we want to do this at. We have 3 domes. The one in Vegas, New Orleans, Atlanta. Maybe we'll sprinkle in Jerry World because it's in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. So those 5 domes are like, hey, we're going to pick from these 5. If we want to play it under the sun, LA, Miami, San Francisco. Everybody else needs a dome. And it's like, we already have everything in place for these other places. I'm not, because you factor in all the events that go on outside, all the transportation getting from one building to the next building. if it's February in Chicago and it's 12 degrees outside, yeah, it's all good inside when it's 70 degrees. But how am I going to get from my hotel to the NFL experience to see the NFL players and do the handshakes and watch them throw the ball through the hoops and
I don't
everything
know the
else?
same way that you get there if you're
What happened in Minnesota?
if you're a Detroit Lion fan that travels to Chicago for a weekend to go to a game. The same way.
But but we're talking about a 2-week buildup of just random events. You got all the podcasts, all the TV networks go there. You have like all of the media row, the media day. You have concerts and different artists. I'm not sure a lot of people really want to travel to Northwest Indiana in February when we could just go to Arizona and do the same thing. See what I'm saying? It's like that's the piece to me. But
well, that's because they gotta put the infrastructure in, saying as far as the area that the stadium would be in. I believe it's called Wolf Lake or something along those lines. But to make that area, to expand that area and make it, because like with the Braves, right? You talked about how they moved to that expensive area of the city. Well, they put shops right there that are just like high class, the I guess, for lack of better words, the best of the best shop there, so it's an experience. You could run into celebrities there probably. So you got to do things like that. But like Scott asked me earlier, how come, tanking wasn't a problem with the Sixers? My question is, why wasn't it a problem when the Rams left St. Louis? Because that was just basically, yay, we were getting the NFL in LA and nothing else matters. You know what I'm saying? So if they were moving from Chicago to a more desirable city, would we not care as much?
Kroenke's net worth from moving the team from St. Louis to LA, the team's value skyrocketed.
I know, and that's why it was such a push behind.
Off the map. This Chicago Bears, Illinois, Indiana, triad of complications. It might just be a money thing. Like, hey, we want something new. This state's willing to give it, but I just
Indiana's willing to say throw everything away.
Yeah, but if you want to host a Super Bowl, because this is something that I heard on the podcast. I believe it was like Barstool Sports, and they were talking about if Buffalo gets a dome or Orchard Park gets a dome, like being able to host a Super Bowl, you need 25 to 30,000 hotel rooms. But you need 25 to 30,000 hotel rooms to ensure you have the capacity of the people who are going to come there for the Super Bowl. So for a 75,000 seat stadium, which means you need at least 27,000 rooms, and that has to be within a short enough distances hotel. So you have to build up this whole area. SoFi, I remember before they bought it was probably like 10 years ago. Me and a guy was sitting in the office. We talked about all the surrounding area that they bought out too. They bought out a lot of Inglewood, and they just made it like a city. SoFi Stadium is a tiny city. Yeah, Santa Clara just hosts, but because they have the structures.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because Cleveland just went through this too. Where they were arguing with the city, or the Browns, they were arguing with the city of Cleveland about a new stadium. And, they ended up settling, and they're going to be moving to some little town called Brook Park. So I think this is just the wave of the future, is that you have these conversations, it's negotiation. You try to come crazy with the city and say, this is what we need. The city doesn't take you seriously until you make them take you seriously. But I think we might be at a point where Illinois just bluffed too much, and the Bears are calling them on it. You know what I mean? Because remember, the Bears haven't been at Soldier Field. Like, I compared it to Lambeau, but the Bears haven't been at Soldier Field as long as Lambeau has been around. They used to play at Wrigley Field before in yesteryear. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Soldier Field is still fairly new in comparison to some of these older stadiums in that way. So I think that at some point you just got to get to the point of how hard do we want to play ball? You know what I mean? Because like I said, the Bulls, when's the last time the Bulls been good? You know what I mean? That Cubs World Series that everybody was happy about?
When they turned the Last Dance cameras off.
Yeah, many moons ago.
When they unplugged that last camera, it was like, that's it.
The White Sox and the Rockies are going through baseball's version of tanking. And now the Bears galvanized the city this year. The Bears are back, and just to be gone. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, for me, it's still Chicago land. So like they're not going to Indianapolis or Ohio or something like that. So I think that it's just
feel it back. It when you hear it, when you sent it to me, you said this is gonna be a topic. I didn't even look into it. My reply was like, I don't like it. You just laughed. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, but I don't like it. But like I said, when you just kind of sit back, bird's eye view, and just take your feelings out of it and just look at it, like I said, compare it logistically to the Jets and the Giants playing at East Rutherford. It's not that complicated. It's right over the border. So the fans can still get there. They didn't price the fan out. They didn't freeze the fan out with the transportation aspect of it. I think it's just a matter of, if you're Chicago, you're looking around as like, we still can be loyal to the city because we are loyal to the fans of the city. But also, this is still a business and opportunities to move and get better amenities that ultimately are better for the fans. And people will forgive them if they win. If they move to Indiana and they're in the NFC Championship next year and Caleb Williams is down forward with the ball in his hand with a chance to win, no one's going to care about where the team's playing at any point in the future, as long as 18 and Ben Johnson are getting their Chicago Bears into the playoffs consistently, because St. Louis should be pissed, but it's still a lot of Rams fans who probably have their connections back to St. Louis. I'm pretty sure all the Colts fans that were Baltimore Colts fans, my dad being one of them, they moved to Indianapolis. He's still a Colts fan. He didn't switch up to the Redskins back when they were called that. So
no, I'm telling you right now, Baltimore still has a sickness towards the Colts. Like whenever the Colts come to Baltimore for a game, it's like literally a week of
but you guys got the Ravens back. See, my dad was growing up in Virginia, they tried to funnel to Washington back in the day, the Washington Redskins. But he was like, they were the last team to hire black players. So he was like, I'm not rocking with them. And then he picked the Colts. So that was his reasoning for it. So them moving to Indianapolis was like,
no disrespect to your pops, but I got a finger for the Colts. You know what I'm saying? I'll put it like that. You know what I'm saying? But hey, as we get into late February, it just means the madness is coming. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to know is Darryn Peterson going to suit up for the NCAA tournament? I don't know what's going on here, Mr. Logical. Like, I don't know if this is load management. Actually, I do know, but I'll let you have the floor for a minute while I formulate my thoughts.
So I first heard something about it about 3 weeks ago. And I believe same thing, because I get a lot of Barstool Sports clips, and I think it was a show with Arian Foster on there. And I was like, okay, it might be something to it. It might be I'm saving myself for the draft. But this last one, when he had 20 points in the first half, he hits another three, uncontested, wide open three, turns to Bill Self and was like, and then Bill immediately turned and got somebody off the bench. I was like, okay, this is agreed upon. This is an agreed upon thing that they have that they probably thought wouldn't get as much attention, but he turned out to be so good, so dynamic with the ball in his hand. It's like, because when he took on BYU and he took it to the cup and he got one on AJ and another guy that's projected to be a top 10 pick out of BYU. It's like, oh, this guy is special. So noticing how talented he is, then the other stuff starts to become a little odd. Like I said, the way Bill Self reacted with such an immediate thing is like, You know, we would have commanders calls, and the commander would be reading off the slide, and whoever was working the laptop, he'd be like, slide, and just pointing. The dude just hits the space bar. Like, it was like you knew exactly when I pointed to you, you're going to do exactly what I said to do. So when he pointed to Bill, and Bill immediately turned and got somebody off the bench, it's like, oh, this is agreed upon. I don't know how deep it goes, but I believe they made an agreement, either him and an agent, or we talked, that was speculation, maybe like a family member is kind of controlling his path, controlling the path. And it's like, hey, this is what we are doing for you. So if you want him to come here, you got to agree to this. And I think that is probably the handshake deal they made. And they probably thought it would go unnoticed, but I think they're kind of overdoing it. Him hitting the 1-3 and turning around, leaving the game and not coming back, it's like, all right, you signed up for this, and you're gonna politically answer these questions until Kansas is out of the tournament, and then the truth to come out afterwards.
Well, as a Kentucky fan, we dealt with this a few years ago, except for he didn't play at all. Shaden Sharp got hurt, and all season long, Coach Calipari kept telling us, like, he's coming, he's getting ready, he's ready. And when he comes, he's bringing the thunder, all that type of boisterous talk. He never played. This year, we picked up Jaden Quaintance from Ohio State. Supposed to be our big man, solidify the middle. He came off of an injury last year, came back early, played 2 or 3 games, and then he's been hurt since again. And it's that same thing where Kentucky fans are like, he ain't coming back. I don't know why coach just won't say he's out. So this is my problem. This is disgusting. I don't understand where people decided that it was okay to not be competitive. So like, we talked about this the other day, like Whitby set the tone for the All-Star game. Why he the only one that want to be competitive? And then fans are in the comments of all these posts and like, on TikTok telling us these things like, why would you waste your time on a regular season game? Because it's the sport that you're playing. That's why.
And that's how you get seeded. You get
it's a part of the
based
process.
Off your regular season performance.
Right.
You get paid based off your regular season performance. It could get enhanced if you have a deep playoff run, but it's like if you average
he's always
12 in the regular if you average 12 in the regular season, so you ramp it up and you got 26 in the postseason. The question isn't going to be how great of a playoff performer you are. It's going to be like, why were you holding back those 14 points for 82 games? And we're in college cases for your 30, 35 games.
Yeah, so I was listening to Kevin O'Connor earlier. And one of the things that he brought up was, this isn't new, though. And that kind of changed my perspective a little bit, just a little bit. Because apparently he went through this throughout high school as well, where he had these cramping issues, these soft tissue injuries and things like that, to the point where they were changing his diet and all kinds of things, trying to find, I guess, the perfect elixir, to make this happen.
I think that's a dangerous story to put out there.
Maybe, but also the other part of the story. But the other part of the story.
Lie, and I think, like my dad would say, you tell a lie with a lie to a lie. And I don't think that's true. Because your ability to perform at that level, and then you say that you can't perform at all because of these mystery injuries you've been having since high school, doesn't make me want to draft you number 1 overall. So why would you put out a story that says these cramps are so debilitating?
Well, I don't know where he got it from, but I know Kevin O'Connor follows these guys. He's big on the NBA draft, so he knows things about these guys. Now, I don't know if that's something that the camp leaked to him, but like from listening to Kevin O'Connor, this just sounds like something to me that he would.
When he shot that 3, he didn't look like he cramped up at all. It was,
but also
there.
But also, he made a comparison of Darryn Peterson's dad to Uncle Dennis. So when you brought up the family member, that's why I reacted that way, because that was his thing, is that his dad is getting a reputation as an Uncle Dennis type. So and that made me think a little bit too. But would I draft him with the number 1 draft pick? If it was just all things created equal, and we're just looking at talent on the court, absolutely I would draft him number one. But when I'm looking at all this other stuff, it makes me look at a guy like AJ DeBoncha and go, hey, this guy is like Jaylen Brown, but 3 inches taller. You know what I'm saying? And he can dribble the ball, and he can shoot the ball consistently, except for against, the best of the best. He leads the nation in scoring, AJ DeBoncha. He leads the nation in scoring right now. You got Boozer down at Duke, a big game tomorrow against Michigan. A lot of people think that he is the best player in the country, but looking at it from the NBA frame of mind, questions about his athletic ability. His dad wasn't even the most athletic. So I've seen comparisons to like Kevin Love, is kind of where I saw a lot of people going with him as far as the
Lil Okafor, 6'8" to 6'10". They probably measure him a couple inches taller than he gets to the combine. He'll be about 6'8.5". And then it's like,
but he's not going to be athletic enough to be a 3 per se, a traditional 3. So, but like he might win player of the year. He's more than likely going to win player of the year in my mind right now as we sit here today. But, so I would look at DeBoncha at number 1 because I don't even know, and this is me speculating a lot, obviously, but what's your attitude? You know what I'm saying? If you're willing to do this, you know what I'm saying? What's up, Scott? Peace out, man. Be good. Like
engagement.
But it's one of those things where, like, are you going to come into the league and just expect automatic load management? Or like, and I mean, the good answer is no, because now I'm at the destination. You know what I mean? But I've always lived by prepare for the job that you want.
More game. You're playing 2.5 times more games. So my metric on you is grading you from high school, prep school, success, size, height, weight, hand size, feet size, arm length, jumping ability. All these things factor into it. And then in college, you're playing this many games. Now, I have to extrapolate what you did in your 30 games across 82 games with some rest built in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, they're flying on private jets, but it's still a physical job. They're doing every day, practice, so forth and so on. Okay, how do I have the staff? Do I have the team that allows for that? Am I one of these? Am I Indiana and I end up with the number 1 pick and I'm getting my star player back and I bring you in? Okay, yeah, maybe I can allow you to play 70 games instead of 82. But if you're cramping at games 16, 17, 19, 20, 22, and 23 of your college career, where you are big fish, small pond, how you going to feel when you got to deal with Ant Edwards chasing you around defensively and then him working you on the offensive end? Are you going to cramp in? Is cramping really the thing? Is it true? Like, if that's the truth, then I got to look at okay, I don't know if I can take you number 1, because if I'm taking you number 1, I have an expectation that you are going to be a franchise changing player as soon as you figure it out. Not immediately, but as soon as you figure out how to take your talent and mold them into an NBA talent, now you're an impact. Like Kyrie took some time, he wasn't come out there winning, but you could tell he knew he was ready for the moment. He was taking on the challenges. He was challenging Kobe at the Olympic basketball trials. You knew Kyrie was ready for the moment, even though he only played 11 games in college because he got injured. James Wiseman got suspended and only played 3 games. And then when he got to the league, you saw your impact was very limited, as well as your college output. Whatever competitiveness you had, it didn't seem like it was a lot of fight. Zion Williamson got hurt in the tournament, or he got hurt in the regular season, and then he came back for the tournament when his shoe blew out.
Yeah, and that was kind of where some of this talk started, because when that happened, people said, well, he should just shut it down.
He should shut it down, but he showed competitiveness by coming back and playing in the NCAA tournament. So New Orleans is like, all right, cool. He could have shut it down. He was the number one overall
and they
pick.
went to the Elite Eight too.
Yeah, so he played a lot of basketball after there was a lot of debates on a lot of these shows prior to our podcast of should he shut it down. But just Darryn Peterson is just I don't like the injury as the reason why he can't play 30 games. And if I'm the GM, it's like, how can I draft you to play 65 games if you're struggling to play?
Well, I just hope this isn't I just hope this isn't the beginning of a trend, because a coach like Bill Self, two-time national championship coach, at Blue Blood that could probably recruit just about not get them all, but could recruit anybody that they want and not be laughed at.
If they didn't focus on Darryn Peterson, they probably could have gone hard at AJ DeBonsa and maybe swayed him from BYU. Even though the Utah connection is probably huge, Kansas has a kind of cachet.
They might have gotten
basketball program to get any top player that they want if they focus on that player.
They might have got Darius Acuff from Arkansas. You know what I mean? Like just somebody like that. They could have
like
talked
50 minutes.
LeBaron Philon into transferring, like anything. You know what I mean? So this
guy played 50 minutes the other day.
Yeah, this is Kansas that we're talking about. So I expect this kind of chunk change, from a school like Oklahoma State. You know what I mean? A school like, say, South Carolina.
Remember the movie Blue Chips with Shaq and Nick Nolte? It was like they had a little run, but they were like kind of on the fringe of being like a good team in Indiana. And they were competing against Indiana, and they broke the rules so they can, rise. You be the cream of the crop in that area, and then basketball. That makes sense for a team like that, like a team that's like, hey, like say Houston. Houston's always on the cusp, and it's like, we got a guy who's willing to come here, but he only wants to play about 20 games worth of minutes spread out over 34 games. Can we agree to that? Because we're close enough to get over the hump. Are we willing to do it? Kansas doing it, like I said, I don't want to discredit the young man. I don't want to feel like I'm bashing him, but we didn't see this from Cooper Flagg. We didn't see it from Con Knipple. You see it from some of these guys who play overtime elite, where it's like you're not playing the highest level of basketball. So maybe that's kind of like your load man, because you're just
people thought Ace Bailey was a diva. And we didn't see it from him, and they were losing.
Yeah, so if it's cramping, that's alarming. If I'm an NBA GM, and if it's not cramping and it's a plan, it's alarming. If I'm an NBA GM,
yeah, it's a turnoff.
Both of those things being, either one of those things being true, he has to move down my draft board.
And if it's cramping, you would like to think that NBA training staff, NBA, medical staff, we could figure that out. Like, I'll take the chance on you, because we always hear about how the Phoenix Suns has one of the best medical staffs in sports, so you would like to think that as an NBA team, we get him in our program and the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? But you got to do your SWOT analysis, if you will. You'll say a little college for you in there. But Mr. Logical,
no reason.
Speaking of the NBA, we made some predictions at the beginning of the season. We talked about who we had as our NBA Finals matchup. Have you changed your mind?
So this is kind of segue into our MVP conversation.
Right.
I still think Oklahoma City. I'm liking Detroit. The reason I like Detroit, I like the improvement they have in Darryn, and obviously Cade Cunningham, but Cade Cunningham has been incrementally better every year. And I think last year he kind of like really put the NBA on notice, like, okay, listen, I'm going to be here for a while. Like, you got about 3 or 4 more years of me playing at this level. You know, because we talk about guys' primes, they don't go for 11 years like Steph and LeBron and those other guys. Like, it's just, you got about 3 or 4 great years out of these guys, and I think he's stepping into that window between now and like 2031 where he's going to play, you know, top tier basketball. Dame Lillard had his run as well. And I think that time is now, but they play with intensity. We saw the fight in Charlotte. It's not always a good thing to fight, but being willing to battle and be battle tested, I think that helps you later in the playoffs where the whistle gets swallowed. You just got to be able to keep it under wraps. You can't run off the bench in April for basketball.
Ultimate Warrior.
Because that's a tough thing. But like, hey, if you want to show, hey, you're not coming down the paint without getting a nice little bump. You're not going to talk slick to my teammate without getting 3 or 4 faces in your face. I think Detroit's showing that. I think the OKC just has all the pieces you need for this NBA. Like, you have the shooter, you got your superstar that gets to his spots whenever he wants. He gets your other best defender in foul trouble. He gets your second best defender in foul trouble. He has kind of a quirky playing style that, yes, people could call him a foul merchant, but if he puts you in a position where he pump fakes you and you try to avoid it, you're doing all this flailing and that elbow touches him, or he touches elbow while he's shooting that shot, he's getting 2 free throws. And if he knocks it down, it's an and one. You just got to deal with it. They have the bigs. They have role players. I think they have all the pieces in place, and they have all the confidence in the world coming off the last championship with all their star players locked in. No one's looking for contracts, things of that nature. So OKC, Detroit, I know it seems chalk because they're both, you know, number one in their conference, but I like that matchup just because they were together at the beginning of the year, no trades. Boston's going to try to bring Jason Tatum back, possibly. Cleveland with James Harden. That still has to be figured out. The Knicks and defense and a third scorer, they're still trying to figure that part out because they have a lot of hustle guys, but they don't have a lot of guys that kind of really.
Yeah, I saw that I saw they picked up your boy from the Spurs and tried to put.
I didn't know he was British. But Cade Cunningham gave him nice.
I think his mom is Polish, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's like a little accent. Yeah.
But yeah, they tried to put him on Cade Cunningham late last night. Yeah. And that ain't go so well. But so for the record, y'all, Mr. Logical has changed his finals. You know, he did have OKC against the Knicks, and now he's going OKC Detroit. I'm not changing my finals. So I'm going out on a limb, first of all. But, you know, I was going on a limb in the first place because I didn't pick OKC. So I was going out on a limb anyway. So I think that the reason that I can't change my mind is because OKC and my champion have been injured this year. So we haven't got to necessarily see the teams at full capacity just yet, you know, as for the full season. Because if you remember when the season started, J-Dub wasn't there, you know, what's his name? Hartenstein's been hurt. You know, they played like, I think it was their first 24 games without their lineup basically intact.
From the NBA Finals lineup,
From the NBA Finals. And you know, and of course, like from that standpoint, they started out 24-1 anyway, you know, even with all that drama. So OKC is the class of the league. So don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, SGA's been out, you know, but, you know, he's still leading the MVP ladder right now. Not mine, but we'll get to that. But he's still at the top of the MVP ladder. But I picked the Denver Nuggets at the beginning of the season because they took OKC to 7 last year, you know, and I don't know what would have happened. The same way we don't know what would have happened if Tyrese Halliburton didn't get hurt. I don't know what would have happened if Aaron Gordon didn't get compromised. You know, he tried to go, salute to him, but they made it to Game 7 against this team. And the version of the Thunder from last season is better than this version of the Thunder. Now, there's reasons for that, but it's still the truth. You know what I mean? So I do think that OKC should still be the favorite. I just like Denver because they got the equalizer. You know, the guy that OKC can't necessarily rough up or force into bad decisions like they do a lot of other teams.
They can't speed him up. They can't rough him up.
No, he's just going to do what he does. And you're going to wait for him.
You're going to come through like one of his horses. Like,
that's what somebody asked me the other day. Like somebody said, hey, I heard you had a sports podcast. I said, yeah. He said, describe Jokic to me. I said, he does what he wants and you're going to wait for him to do it. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That's
stubborn German Shepherd.
You know, Jamal Murray's having the best season of his career. You know, first time All-Star. You know, Christian Braun is back now. So, you know, some of the lineup's back. So during this process that Gordon and Braun and even Jokic were hurt, people like Peyton Watson had to step up. You know, they went and got Valanciunas, you know, as a backup for Jokic in the offseason. So Denver's making the right moves. They brought in Tim Hardaway Jr., who was a part of that Detroit ascension last year. You know, so they got the shooters. So I like the pick because once Aaron Gordon gets back, we'll see it at full strength. And a lot of those guys that have had to play a bigger role.
That experience that they had with
right.
the guys being out.
Right.
But one of the knocks on what was the coach they fired?
Mike Malone.
Mike Malone. It was like they felt like he didn't go deep enough into the bench. I don't know if Adelman goes that deep into the bench into the playoffs. Now, we can cite guys getting a lot of minutes because people are out. But when it comes to the playoffs where losing a game 103 to 104, 104 to 103 could be a matter of you got a guy in there who
like where the hell is Julian Strother?
just looks the wrong way, and SGA is getting a free layup, and now they go up 8 with a minute left, and like that blown assignment because you have a guy in there who, because you went 9 and 10 deep in your playoff rotation. I get it personally. I think all these guys in the league, I'm pretty sure they can figure out whatever the situation is, but just as a coach, you gotta be willing to ride on that. I think OKC has that in spades. They have 10 guys that they know they can play. And they know they can play them in big moments. And you talk about the version this year is better than last year. I liken it to the Golden State Warriors that went 73-9. They got KD the following year. Their record was nowhere near 73-9, but I think they knew this is a team that went 73-9.
No, that's a great point.
But I think we can play KD and Clay this game and rest Draymond and Steph. I think we can. All right, we're down 12 going into the fourth. You know what? I think this game we can finish the year 60-22, 58-24, and be just fine. We're right in the mix, 1, 2, or 3. And I think OKC might be looking at it that way because the year before, when they won, talking about Golden State, they went like 67-15.
Yeah.
And then everyone was like, you should go for the record, go for the record, go for the record. And I believe that changed how the rest of the league looked at that record, especially when they didn't win it all. Because if they won it all at 73-9, I don't think there's a lot of teams that have been out there really trying to go 74-8 after that. But the fact that they didn't win at 73-9, I think that really changes how you play. And I think that changes how OKC plays.
Well, I think that is different, though, because I think it's a great point that you bring up. But I think it's different because the Warriors were doing that intentionally. You know what I mean? Because they tired themselves out or whatever the reason was. They did that deliberately. OKC is facing injuries. And one of those injuries, for example, is J-Dub's hand, and he's not that great of a shooter anyway. You know what I mean? But he's still trying to, there's a lot of inconsistency.
But can you give him, say, the NBA, they play their games Monday, and then they got a Friday, Saturday back-to-back, and then their following game is Tuesday after that Friday, Saturday back-to-back. What if he comes to the trainer on Tuesday, you know what? Just sit out these 3 games. Don't worry about it. We'll reevaluate next Monday to see if you're ready for the Wednesday game.
Also,
and he could be good to go Friday to play that Friday, Saturday back to back. But it's like, you know what I mean? We don't really need you to do that because
but I think there's still
other horses.
But I think there's still more differences because that Warriors team was a veteran team and they were, I don't know what the word is, but nobody was going to beat them at their best anyway. You know what I mean? We saw OKC, even as dominant as they were last year, you know, Denver took them to 7. You yourself have said if Halliburton doesn't get hurt.
Halliburton doesn't get, just because Indiana was on such a miracle run.
No, I understand.
We talked about Neesmith, what he dropped like 23 points in a row in the fourth quarter. Like that doesn't if that happened in a video game, you'd have thought the dude was cheating you. So no, I just felt like that kind of that. I just felt because you gave that team a chance in that moment. I felt like that because it was once the ball got tipped. It was whoever wins this game. It was there was no tomorrow. And I felt like Halliburton I think he was already like 3 for 3. I think he was maybe like 9 or 11 points. And it came
so the only thing OKC better hope that the Spurs don't fall into that 4. That's what they better hope. But you know, on the other side in the East, I picked the Cavs because I didn't believe in the Knicks. I don't believe in the Knicks just because their name is the Knicks. You know what I'm saying? I've been alive way too long, watching the Knicks way too long. And even though I know that none of these players were a part of those 90s teams that went up against the Bulls, you know, the Knicks have become synonymous with disappointment and choking. So from that standpoint, you know, some things just never die. Just the same reason I tell you every single year.
Elevated levels of expectation based off of like.
No, they choked.
Ashes in the pan.
No, they
went to Eastern Conference Finals last year, right?
Just like every year, right? Every year, you know this for fact. Every year, ever since you've known me, Miami, Florida State week, I talk about Bubble Guts week. You know, I talk about Wide Right, ESPN, and everybody else showing all the missed kicks. And it gotta mess with your psyche a little bit.
It's the same. It's kind of the same thing. I remember with the Falcons, where they were just kind of blowing these fourth quarter leads in these like astronomical ways.
That game against Dallas,
3 possessions. Even Mike McCarthy went for 2, inexplicably didn't get it. But the same thing leading to Dallas in the playoffs. None of those people were there other than Jerry, maybe Steven.
And
it's nobody else was there. It's just like a thing that just kind of looms over them.
And all they did,
the Knicks do have that.
And all they did was bring in Tom Thibodeau with dark skin, a bald head, and that wants to pass the ball a little bit more. You know what I mean? But the Knicks are effectively the same squad, just with a new head coach. So coming into the season, people were handing the Knicks the East because there was no Jason Tatum. You know, is Embiid going to make it through a season? So on and so forth. People just gave the Knicks the East. So Cleveland now, my pick. Cleveland started off the season with one of their young guns hurt. You know, Darius Garland missed the first 20 games or so, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe a little less, with a toe injury. You know, and the knock on Cleveland was because I was putting a lot of faith in them to begin with because I think that the Knicks didn't match up with them well. You know, and I thought that was going to be the Eastern Conference Finals more or less. I had some love for Orlando, but I was being a little overzealous. But
you really want Orlando to be good.
I wanted Orlando to be good, man. I did.
Too. They need another team. They need another team on the East to challenge to like get in the mix with the Knicks and the Cavaliers. They need a team. They need another team to have 40 wins around the All-Star break. Like they need that team to be
and there brings in Boston. You know what I mean? Like now
players, they have a great mix in Orlando and it just not turned out. But yeah, you were really big on them. I remember that. And I was never a fan of that Orlando pick.
It's all good.
I don't know why. I just was like, I just don't see it working.
I think that you know, I just got caught up in the numbers. You know what I mean? Numbers don't tell the whole story, right? You know what I mean? But Jalen Suggs was a 40% three-point shooter before he got hurt. You know, Bane was a 41% three-point shooter. And I was like, Orlando's weakness is they can't put the ball in the basket. So now you bring in these guys that spread the floor a little bit, let Paolo and Wagner operate. But Wagner's been hurt. He's hurt now. Paolo has, I ain't going to say he regressed, but I would just say that his game didn't necessarily grow. And that's where they are. But with James Harden, the reason I was so big on the James Harden is because he brought a different dynamic to the Cavs offense. So even though Darius Garland was the de facto point guard in a lot of ways, him and Mitchell were essentially the same player. One just jumped higher than the other. And you know what I mean? But Harden brings a certain steadiness to the offense where calmness. Yeah, like he can speed up, at times when it's necessary, but he'll pull it back and set up the offense.
You can't rattle him. He's like, I know what a trap looks like. I know where it's coming. I know who the help defender is. I know that this.
And if nothing else, he brings height. You know what I mean? Because that was the thing with Portland back in the day and Washington back in the day. C.J. McCollum and Dame Lillard, John Wall and Bradley Beal. Neither one of these dudes are necessarily like bigger guys in the backcourt. You know what I mean? They were just little small dudes that had to be hot for their teams to prosper. And that's what Cleveland was battling, was that, because we talk about this all the time. That there's a game in a series that Donovan Mitchell's going to go 7 for 21. You know that there's a game that Darius Garland's going to go 5 for 18. You just got to hope it ain't the same one. You know what I mean? And that's where Cleveland got itself.
That game he was going 2 for 10 from 3.
So now with Harden, we know about his playoff failures. I'm one of the biggest people yelling about his playoff failures. But at this stage in James Harden's career, I don't ask James Harden to give me 40 points. Donovan Mitchell wants to give me 40 points. He performs in the playoffs. And now I got a dude that's going to help you get easier shots to get to your 40 points without necessarily having to shoot a lot. You know what I mean?
You won't need 28 to 29 shots if you're Donovan Mitchell.
He's going to make Jared Allen better because there's going to be a lot of lobs, easy plays. Evan Mobley might get the ball just a little bit more than he was before.
Yeah, that was a very. It's odd that 6'10" and 6'11" guys are just 6 foot to 6'2" and like 6'11", 6'10", 6'11" that don't shoot threes. For some reason, those guys don't get the ball in the NBA. It's weird to me.
Yeah.
Quick guards.
That's the thing. Evan Mobley can hit the three. That's the crazy part. You know what I mean? So I think Cleveland is going to figure it out. We still got about 25, 26 games left in the season. So still quite a bit of time to get the kinks worked out, if you will. So I'm going to stick with my pick.
Their last 10. So, it's not crazy. I think the East, to go back to the Knicks point.
Yeah.
Black Tom Thibodeau is probably the perfect example of Mike Brown. Because he's not, I think he's a really, really, really good coach. And I think if he is paired with the superstar, I think he'd get the best out of the team. Because I don't think he really does anything like ultra creative. Like we talk about Steve Kerr's innovative, but like a lot of Steve Kerr stuff is because of Draymond and Steph. And Draymond and Steph just know how to put the big into a position where he has to guard Steph 26 feet like it's no man's land. Because Draymond's like, I got this big on me. All right, Steph, come this way. Let's get this pick and roll.
That's why I think people undervalue Draymond, because I think that Steph would have it a lot harder without Draymond. Maybe not today because Draymond is fading, but over the course of that championship run that they had, Draymond, I say this all the time, Draymond saved Steph Curry's legs, from having to do so much, from having to be a true point guard.
He didn't have to divvy the ball up.
Yeah. So, so I'm gonna keep my finals pick.
Yeah, the Knicks. I think the problem that they have is their two scorers are opposite in stature, but very similar in what they need to do to be effective. Like, I think Jalen Brunson just kind of needs the ball in his hand, and I think Cat Cat's like he can shoot the three, but he doesn't like. He's not running off the screens. He's not standing in the corner waiting to pick and pop. Like he's getting the ball in different kind of actions. So he's still like kind of doing the same thing Jalen Brunson does as far as like having the ball, dribbling back to the basket, maybe shooting like a long three or something like that. It's like he doesn't do it differently. It's very similar to how
he doesn't leverage himself.
It's very similar to how LeBron and Luka both use the basketball for themselves to score. Like they get people open the same way. They throw the same type of passes. LeBron just a little bit more athletic than Luka, but they do the same. They score it the same way. They attack the rim the same way. They attack the game the same way. So I think that's the problem that the Knicks are going to come because if Josh Hart was your Klay Thompson or if Mikal Bridges was your Klay Thompson guy where he just was like, hey, the two of us are kind of doing what Steph and KD were doing, hitting big shots, getting the one-on-one matchups, being able to dribble, create space, get the shot off. But then we also had this other guy that can come off the screen and no dribble and score. That's what I think New York is missing. And because you can't find that guy everywhere, they backfill it with like scrappy role players that can defend.
Jose Alvarado has been a good.
They figure like, you know what? If we can't get guys that can catch and shoot, we'll just get guys that can just pester you defensively. But when you get a guy like Cade Cunningham, when you get one of these NBA superstars, and the hoop is 18 inches bigger than normal, and everything's falling anyway, all your defensive plans go out the work because it's like, we got a guy that's dropping 40 on you because he is an NBA superstar and he's hot, and you don't have a counter for that guy's offense.
Yeah, so for the Knicks, lately, Landry Shamet has been a lot better as time has gone off. Jose, but Deuce McBride is a big loss for them. So they say that he should be back for the playoffs, and I hope that he is because we will see. And that's the thing, Mike, that's a great thing that you just said. I disagree, but you know what I'm saying? And I think that Mikal Bridges was a little fool's gold because he played on a team that didn't have anybody that could score. So by design, he had to take a lot more shots. But he's not the kind of guy that sets himself up. Like Mikal Bridges is what I like to call
coming off
a reactive player.
Screen, looking to catch and shoot. He's coming off looking for the best play. And he's like, I got this. Let me get this pick and roll. Let me get this pass off the cap. He's not coming off like Klay. I'm watching the Dallas, Minnesota game. I looked up Klay's taking a couple of threes. He's missed them both. But literally when the ball hit his hand, his feet were set and he was looking at the rim. No triple threat, no looking to pass anywhere else. It's like, hey, I'm coming off this pin down. I'm catching a rock and I'm shooting a three. Mikal Bridges plays more into whatever the offensive system is, which is get the ball to Cat, get the ball to Jalen. Or if I could take
it kind of reminds me of, and I'm not making a direct comparison as like skill set or anything like that, but it kind of reminds me of Michael Porter Jr. And maybe that's because Michael Porter Jr. is in Brooklyn right now, where like there's not much around you, you know what I mean? So somebody has to do the scoring.
But if Mikal Bridges played like the Denver Michael Porter Jr.,
the Knicks would be cooking with grease.
The Knicks would be like if his whole thing offensively was be ready to catch and shoot, then I think they would be a little bit more of a threat if he can knock it down. If he can,
and I don't want to be disrespectful because OG Anunoby, showed up in the playoffs last year. But I think the problem is, to your original point, is that Brunson doesn't get everybody else involved enough. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times it's breakdown. Yeah, there you go. Jordan Clarkson needs more. Yeah. So
OG gets the ball with 8 seconds on the shot clock. Now I got to make a play.
Now he's got to make a play and make a decision.
Yeah.
But they're not setting it up like, hey.
He's not getting the ball with 17 seconds.
Yeah, they're not like, hey, he's off tonight, or hey, Cat's been a little ineffective tonight. Let's get OG or Mikal some shots. It's like, no, just keep doing it. It'll work eventually. Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But Mr. Logical, before we get out of here, we got to talk a little MVP. We're getting to that point in the season. And I mentioned to you earlier, we were talking about the ladder. So I don't know if you have the ladder in front of me, but I wrote it down, I think. So SGA is number one. There was Jokic was number two. And then it just kind of went crazy after that. Cade Cunningham was number three.
That's one I have.
Yeah, and then I can't remember who 4 and 5 were off the top of my head.
I got Luka. I got Shea,
Brown,
Joker, Cade, Luka, Wemby, Jalen.
That's what it was.
Yeah, so that's the five.
So this is the thing. You can just start this is just me speaking. Yeah. You can eliminate some of these dudes. So I completely understand why somebody would say, yo, Victor Wembanyama should get MVP votes. I will counter that and say, I'm not giving MVP to somebody that's on a minutes restriction. You know what I mean? I'm not giving an MVP to someone whose team is 10-4 when he doesn't play. Yeah. Now obviously, I'm not trying to minimize the impact that Wemby has on the game, right? But you
have to recognize the impact that another player has.
Right, but this is the other part of that. And I'm going to get to that in a second, Mike. I'm glad you said that. But this is the other part of that, though, is that usually when your star is out, something suffers, like whether it's your offense, your defense, whatever. So a guy like Wemby brings such dynamic ability to both sides of the ball. The Spurs still averaged 121 points in the games he didn't play in. So, you know what I mean? So from that standpoint, I don't want to simplify it, but this is EPR time. You know what I'm saying? We got to start eliminating people.
Wemby is probably one of the most exciting players.
Yes.
And it's like there's certain guys that are just ultra exciting. Donovan Mitchell is one of those guys that's an exciting player to watch. Excitement doesn't always akin itself to value. And I think that's right. I think people are kind of enamored with that aspect of it.
And then last thing from me real quick to respond to Mike's point, because he brought up something that I was going to touch on. Jokic. Jokic got about 3 games left that he can miss. Or he's out of this conversation altogether because he won't meet the 65-game requirement. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I don't have Jokic so high right now, is because he's missed so much time. There's season left for him. I'm not one of those dudes that makes up my mind in February and go, no, he's out of the race. But he just got back from injury, so he's got to get back into the race for me.
His numbers are video.
Oh, his numbers are crazy. Like they're
28 and a half. So we'll just round up.
Yeah.
9, 12, and 11.
Yep.
For a guy that they took 60th overall. I like Shea, but with the NBA, I look at a couple of things. Like the same way I felt about my coach of the year with Kyle Shanahan. I thought because he was kind of working with less pieces. I think with the NBA, if I can look at your team and see that there's no holes in your team.
Hold on, wait for it. Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's neither here nor there. We're not even talking about LeBron. Like, let's stay focused. All right. I don't know why everybody brings up LeBron. You look, there's 400 dudes that play basketball in the NBA. But yeah, so when I think about MVP, I think OKC is kind of in that the same way Andy Reid as coach of the year, because he has such a complete team that it's kind of hard to be like, how much are you really doing that makes like you just have such a complete team. They follow your guidance and it's like you're locked in. I think OKC has such a complete team. I don't think they have a hole. I don't think they have a hole defensively. I don't think they have a hole coming off their bench. I don't think their backup point guard slows them down. I don't think their bigs change how they.
And they just went and got Jarrett McCain.
Yeah, and they brought back the guy that had testicular cancer. So it's like I just think that they don't have any like holes. So I think SGA is just the best player on the best constructed team. I think Cade Cunningham, because he had to grind and they had to get everyone back. I like him as the
Okay.
MVP front runner.
Okay.
To Mike's point, what Jaylen Brown is doing, because there was an expectation. Because if we look at Indiana, they lost their, we'll call it best player to an Achilles tear. A few weeks after Boston lost their quote unquote best player to an Achilles tear. And one team is at the bottom of the standings.
Well,
And the
Indiana
other
also
team,
lost Miles Turner too.
well, they lost him in, a financial transaction.
Their engine. They lost their engine.
Somebody else could have stepped in. But that's the thing. They knew Halliburton was out. So they knew Miles Turner was leaving in free agency. Like, you got to remedy that. Because they lost Porzingis in Boston, who was ill. They lost Horford. They lost Cornette. Those guys were vital pieces for Jalen and Jaden to be able to do what they're doing too. So I'll go Cade Cunningham 1, Jaylen Brown 2. And unfortunately, Jokic is getting that same Andy Reid kind of treatment too, but it's like, we just expect you to go. I know it seems like a stretch, but 28, 10, and 10 for Jokic is like what we expect. Is like he's figured out how to do that. Like the same way we talked about James Harden, like how you can't surprise him with any kind of defense and he's going to stay calm. I think Jokic just knows, Doug, I can get these points, I get these rebounds, I get these assists, and I can think about my horses the entire game and not be stressed out about it. I'm just that much better on the floor than whatever you could throw at me. But I think Cade Cunningham's having Detroit number 1 in the East. I think that has to be valued. And I think I'm going Cade Cunningham as my number 1 guy. And to Mike's point, Jaylen Brown number 2.
So Mike, cover your ears real quick. So SGA is averaging 32, right? I'm rounding up 31.8 to be technical. He's averaging 32. He's shooting 55.4% from the field. Michael Jordan's highest of his career is 53.9. Just put that in perspective. And one of the talking points that isn't necessarily wrong, so I don't want to disrespect it by saying talking points, is that people just got tired of Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? I think Shea is one of those guys.
Has a couple of MVPs during Jordan's peak.
And Barkley got one.
And Barkley got one. Like that, I think that might have been more true than.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like, I don't want to disrespect it by calling it a talking point, but but it is a talking point. It just happens to be true. But I think that's where we're probably going to get to with SGA. Now, he might win the MVP this year by default because, like I said, Jokic can only miss 3 more games. Wemby can only miss 1 more game. 1 more or 2 more games. I'm sorry. He's missed 14 this season. So if he misses 2 more games, he's out.
Is it 6? You got to play 60.
You got to play 65.
So you miss
7. So you can miss 17 games. Oh, so he's got 3. My bad. Yeah, he's got 3.
3. Yeah,
So him and Jokic got about 3 games left that they can miss. And a guy on a minutes restriction, I kind of think that you could miss a game, not because of injury, but if you're already on a minutes restriction, you know what I mean? Like, we'll see what happens. Luka is on the ladder, like you mentioned. He's the league leading scorer, just like we were talking about Jokic, right? His crazy numbers, rounding up 33, 8, 9 for Luka. The problem is that I don't think anybody thinks that the Lakers are really any good. So that should help him, but it's hard when you play on a team like with a guy like LeBron James. That's all I'm gonna say about LeBron. Then you got a guy like Austin Reeves, who was averaging 28 earlier this year. So it's kind of hard for me to say that you're the value when we got a guy having a career year next to you. Now, granted, I could say that career year is because of you. Well, I lied. I got to say LeBron's name again because LeBron missed a lot of the early season with the sciatica, so his usage and his shots went up. So, you know what I mean? So, but that showed that Luka it showed Luka takes a lot of shots.
But I think that's a kind of a standard. That's a standard that the MVP voters have already established over the last, we'll call it the last decade. It's been a lot of the one-man band exceeding expectations award.
Okay.
Either like we talked about Russell Westbrook with the triple double. So that was 2016, 2017 season, correct?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That was the first year that when KD went to Golden State, but Steph didn't get any consideration. Well, didn't get as much consideration because he had KD and Clay to pass the ball to. And that was kind of that 4-year run. I don't think either one of them finished top 3 MVP voting because of it, because they had each other. And we think about other years where like LeBron probably should have had like a little bit more MVP consideration, but but James Harden was having like such outstanding years that you knew LeBron was doing something ultra dynamic, but what James Harden was doing, he felt more like a one-man band than any of the teams that LeBron had put together.
And see, and I'm glad you
same
said
thing
that.
with the Boston guys, like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. It's kind of looked at like, okay, you guys are so good. We expect 55 wins out of you.
Well, that's why I'm glad that you said that, because my choice is Jaylen Brown, for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned. Like, here I go being just a little bit disrespectful again. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're seeing Scottie Pippen on steroids right now. You know what I'm saying? That's what Jaylen Brown's doing right now. You know what I mean? He has a certain dog in him. And I'm not trying to say that he's better than Scottie, so I ain't trying to be so disrespectful. But he's got a certain dog in him that Scottie didn't have. You know what I mean? And I think that's what separates him, because we talked about this for years, and I know me and Mike had many arguments about this, but I was like, I don't know if Jason Tatum is worlds better than Jaylen Brown. You know what I mean? I just think that his game is more aesthetically pleasing. He probably has more moves, if you will, like, because Jaylen Brown's weakness is dribbling. So he has.
I think they're equally as.
They're yoked up. That's a good marriage. They're yoked up together.
Effective sounds like dismissive, but I don't want to just keep using the word good. I think what they both bring to the basketball game is equally as dangerous if you're trying to defend the Boston Celtics. If you're trying to defend them, both of them bring an element to the game that requires the same level of attention. And then defensively, playing around them and trying to get your best offensive player off of them defensively is the same level. So it's like they're not equal players. Like one guy has.
Jason Tatum is better.
This guy shoots a little bit better. This guy handles better. But as far as like, I'm coming into the game, I don't have Jason Tatum as my number one priority and Jaylen Brown as a distant 2. It is how do we get these two guys to not disrupt what we're trying to do offensively and defensively, and just him being out there without Jason. And testament to Mike Mazzulla and his I know I'm saying his name wrong.
Is it Joe Mazzulla?
Joe Mazzulla. I keep saying Mike Mazzulla. For some reason, I think Boston College.
You're probably thinking of that guy, Mike Muscala.
I'm thinking it's a Mike Mazzulla that went to Boston College that played football, like a fullback. Sounds like a fullback name. It's stuck in my head. We look it up. That's probably the case. I just have that stuck in my head for some reason. But that's a testament to, obviously Boston. But that's and I think that might give him some extra points. But we talk about the groupthink aspect of the voters. I don't know if all the writers and voters or whoever has a vote really breaks it down the way we're having this conversation, because Mike came on with his Jaylen Brown take off the rip. I got Cade Cunningham. The stats say Jokic. The win percentage says SGA. So between the three of us, we can easily articulate who could be 1 out of 5 players.
Well, also,
but then the vote's going to come out, and it's going to be 70% for one guy.
Right.
And that's going to be the problem.
Think. Yeah. And so I do think that Tatum is better. My whole argument was just that it wasn't the gap that's between Jordan and Pippen, for example. You know what I mean? But like the thing about it is that not only did Jason Tatum go down, they lost, and I know like he old and everything, but they lost Al Horford, saying he went to Golden State. Cornette, went to San Antonio. They brought in Anthony Simons, who was in a contract year basically, but they traded him now. They bring in Vucevic, in that trade. So like Derek White is the only other like Peyton Pritchard's good. Sam Hauser obviously is going to shoot the lights out, but Derek White is the other glue on that team. You know what I'm saying? And now like it's kind of like Derek White is in the Jaylen Brown now. You know what I mean? But he's not as good dynamically as Jaylen Brown is. I do like Cade Cunningham as well. So I think me and you are reversed. Because I got Jaylen number 1 and I got Cade number 2. You know what I mean? Because Cade is just doing the damn thing. Like nobody, I don't care who you are, nobody had the Pistons as the 1 seed right now.
A 5-game lead.
You were higher on the Pistons than I was coming into the season.
I just felt like it was going to make sense. I felt like when you keep your young players and they improve, especially when your big improves, when your big gets better around the hoop, because I'm not a big proponent of the big getting better further from the hoop. I don't want you shooting 6 threes a game, hitting 2.5 of them. That's not what I want. I want you getting 12 to 14 points around the rim and 11 to 12 rebounds and getting to the free throw line because you're the biggest guy out there, and every time you get a rebound for a putback dunk, you're getting fouled. That's right. Where I want to see your improvement, because I think being 6'11" near a 10-foot hoop when you're athletic as you are is your best means of success in the NBA. Call me crazy, but I think AD around the hoop is better than AD shooting jumpers. I think Cat around the hoop is better than Cat in the three-point contest. I think Jalen Duren around the hoop with a point guard that's a efficient passing point guard that they have like this camaraderie with, I think that's better, because I think when you are in these tight games, we talk about 104 to 103 final score. I need a bucket, this pick and roll where my point guard is 6'8", about 220, 230, and you have James Harden guarding him in the pick and roll.
I just wonder
playoffs. And I can dump this off to Jalen Duren with Evan Mobley, who's smaller than him. I think that advantage in that combination works better. So that's why I was really big.
I wonder, or actually, you know what? To your King, you're going to get off the camera right when I was about to set you up.
No, like I keep getting these pop-ups and it just pisses me off, and I've been making like
I guess I'll set you up since you're listening.
I'm listening.
Who is, well, actually, hold on. Let me make sure I got this right before I try to set you up, before I set myself up.
All right.
but to your point, what I'm saying, like Detroit is, super young. I wonder how Duren is going to hold up, during the playoffs, as far as effectiveness, because I think that he can be taken away, and I guess I can't set you up. I was wrong anyway, but yeah, it's just one of those things. But Tobias Harris has been a lot better for them than I remember him being in bigger moments. Because last year, he was giving Cat problems on defense, which is another one of those reasons why I can't really put my eggs into the Knick basket. But so I think Cade Cunningham he'll get more votes than Jaylen Brown as long as the Pistons stay where they are, because they will be the best team in the East. So I think he'll get more votes. But I just think collectively, Jaylen Brown is having the better season. Not by much. We're splitting hairs. You know what I mean? Luka, I don't consider at all. Wemby, I don't consider at all. Jokic, you have to factor in because of numbers, but like I said, he's missed a lot of games. SGA, with the stat, and on top of that, 55% from the floor, he's shooting 39 from three. So SGA is just an unstoppable machine. Forget the free throw merchant stuff. Like, even without that, teams just can't stop this man. But I think that he might fall into that category, say, maybe 3 years from now, where he's still going to be doing the same thing, but it's going to be like in a Tim Duncan kind of way.
I think it's going to happen right now. I think it's going to happen right now because I believe there's a few teams in the NBA that, like, Giannis is potentially available in the trade. Let's say Paolo Banchero is probably available in the trade this offseason. Obviously, AD just got traded to Washington. There's a lot of teams that could trade for a guy that might just suddenly come available that's a star player. Say Devin Booker becomes available. There's a lot of teams that could look to be like, if we add a Devin Booker, we can be this. OKC doesn't need to add a single player. Like, I think they're just kind of filled out 1 through 15 on their roster spots.
And they got their next generation. They got Nikola Topic, who you were talking about, just came back. Yeah. They
have somebody's draft pick that could potentially be. I think the Clippers draft pick potentially this year.
They drafted Thomas Sorber, who's going to end up replacing Hartenstein at some
Philly
point
for like 2 steaks in the pretzel. And
what I'm saying? J-Dub, once his hand is where it needs to be, he's only going to get better. Caruso locks down the defense. Like, they had Caruso guarding Jokic during a lot of that series last year.
Yeah.
You got Chet down low blocking shots, and he can step out and hit a three.
OKC has a lot of guys that could be on the floor for 18 minutes and be one of the most effective players of the game. And
OKC is crazy, though, because they have a team.
And that's the thing that they have.
It's crazy, though, because if you just look at the names and not the execution, besides SGA, they kind of look like an expansion team. Like J-Dub's the young dude with the hops, and, Caruso's the role player that plays the TJ McConnell kind of role. Hartenstein's no star.
18 minutes. If he gets 18 minutes, he's going to give you 18 minutes of hell. If Hartenstein gets 22 minutes, all he's going to do is rebound, defensively, offensively.
Knock you on your ass.
Knock you on the ass defensively and roll to the hoop for putback dunks and leave the game with 8 rebounds, 7 points, a couple of fouls.
And that's why I picked him to win the title last year.
Chilling, drinking Gatorade, taking a break, and not have to deal with whatever big body is being thrown at them because they have Hartenstein.
And that's why
I early last.
Yeah, and that's why, because like I said,
I think you picked them the day the
day that they got Hartenstein. I said they're winning the title, and it was and a lot of it boiled down to when I thought of them as, and I brought this up during the playoffs last year. They reminded me of the Arkansas Nolan Richardson 40 minutes of hell.
40 minutes of hell. I saw.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that was just there was just there's nothing that you can do to get because some teams, right? So the Pistons. So the Pistons. So the Pistons, right? If Jalen Darryn has a bad game, or Cade has a bad game, right? Let's use Cade. If Cade has a bad game, I don't know who they have on the roster that is going to step up immediately and go, he's going to take over for tonight and get us out of this game. We talked about Cat and Brunson, what I'm saying? But both of them need to be on, what I'm saying, for the Knicks to function. The Cavs.
You need 52 points, 54 points out of those two guys.
Yeah, like the Cavs, you need Harden not to short circuit during the playoffs or whatever the case may be. OKC is one of those teams that even if SGA is off, even if J-Dub is off, they're going to hold you to 92 points. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? So just
Lou Dort's going to shoot 5 for 7 from 3 in the first half.
Yeah, he's going to dirtily try to take out your player too.
Oh, yeah, and he'll kick somebody in the chest, but he's going to have 2 steals, a couple of blocks.
And the refs let him play. Like, you know, because we talk about this, right? Like, I'm going to wrap this up, but
that whistle gets swallowed.
Well, yeah, because we talked about this back in the day, Warriors Cavs. You know what I'm saying? People used to say, like, look at how great the Cavs defend Steph Curry and the Warriors. And it's like, no, the refs are letting them push and grab that they don't let other people do. Like, and Mike, I know you remember this as a Bulls fan. That year where the Bulls won 62 games and they swept the Heat in the regular season, I believe it was. They played in the Eastern Conference Finals. And in game one,
punching Derrick Rose.
Yes. And what they were saying was, look at how great he's defending Derrick Rose, you know, even though Derrick Rose has the speed and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, yeah, he's using his elbow to push him across the court. And, you know,
he's 6'8", 250 going against Derrick Rose, and he's putting his hip into him the entire time he's defending him, and he has his arm leaning on
right. And, you know, and that's what they let OKC do.
That's what great players do. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? They let OKC get away with that. Like, there's plays where, like, I've seen dudes dribbling up the court, and Caruso will come up on them and, like, smack their arm or something, and they'll just look at the ref, dribble again, and then Caruso will grab his jersey when he try to take off. He passes the ball and looks at the ref, and then everybody's like,
oh,
damn, OKC's got them in a phone booth right now. Like, yeah, they're grabbing.
Was pulling TJ McConnell's wrist.
Yeah.
And he was holding his wrist. TJ was looking at the ref like, dog, he's holding my hand right now.
But see, what I don't know is if OKC has the stature to swing a series. Because so, like, back in the day, right, you got your Jordans, you got your Kobe's. And I've always said this because, you know, I don't necessarily believe that it's rigged per se. But
start calls.
Yeah, I do believe that if you're playing against one of these dudes, you got to be 8 to 10 points better, because if the game is within range, there's going to be a call.
Who said that?
There's going to be a call. Like, you know what I mean? Whoever.
And Andre Iguodala said, he was on a podcast. It was, I think it's him and Evan Mobley, and they were talking. They were on the podcast. I don't know if it was some other athletes or other NBA guys, but what he said was like,
hold on, let me double check. Was it Evan Turner?
Turner, god damn it! You know, Turner, the one that done like Paul George. He was saying, like, listen, we got to win this game by 15 points to win it by 1. And it was like, what? And the guy was like, what do you mean? He was like, because it was, the question was, because the NBA rigged. It was like, listen, we're gonna have to really put our foot on the necks of this team to get out of here, to end this series in 5. It was something like that. It was like, we're gonna close out a series in like 5 or 6. It was like, we got to win this game by 15 in order to win it by 1.
Yeah.
And that leads to a point where we talked about the 2016 finals, where they were just mugging. They were just mugging stuff. I even think that crossover where Kevin Love was defending stuff, I think some of that was, I think he got his hands on him a little bit. Steph was still dancing with the ball, and they were up 4 anyway, but I still think like a lot of that was allowed throughout the playoffs. We talked about Dellavedova the year before when he was getting ice packed and IVs, just chasing stuff around. Had to grab him and pull him and chase him around. So there is an element to like, hey,
does OKC have that right now? Like, if there's do you have to dominate OKC that way, or will OKC get those whistles, or have they earned that?
You have to, because I think what OKC can do is, I believe they have good on-ball defenders in their second unit that defend your point guard and your combo or shooting guard.
Shout out to Kason Wallace.
Yeah. I think what what's the white guy you would say? I forgot his name.
Caruso.
Alex Caruso. the way he could defend your 2, 3, and 4, even most teams don't really have a 5 that's effective offensively. A lot of them just have like a lot of guys flat to the rim, get
They're
right
just
down.
big. Yeah.
Like, they're just bigs. So your 2, 3, and 4, I think Caruso can really impact them. So then they shoot the 3 willingly. I think guys are ready to catch and shoot. So as long as a couple of those shots fall, if SGA is having an off night and he has to go to the bench for 2 or 3 minutes in a second, as long as these guys that come with the second unit are ready to catch and shoot, you're NBA players. You got it. Like, especially if you catch and shoot and you're open. Eventually they're gonna fall, and I think that's gonna give them their cachet, because now when SGA gets back in the game, he can get back into his bag of getting to the free throw line, mid-range, free throw line extended, getting the switch with the big on him, and the big can't really handle the herky jerk kind of hezzy moves he has, and now he's at the free throw line. You're frustrated, yelling at the refs, coaches getting the tech. All of it plays out in their favor because they have the most complete unit, and I think their head coach has a temperament that won't throw them off.
And you know what's
like
crazy?
I think Ime Udoka can throw the Rockets off. I think he can get so pissed off at players and the refs that the players, and I think they kind of follow that lead, and they could get more intense. But I think Daigneault and his just kind of calmness keeps the Thunder equally as calm.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say, Mike. We did all that, talked about OKC and all that, and all they got. We didn't even mention Wiggins. We didn't even mention Isaiah Joe.
I said the team.
I know, but I'm just saying, but we were saying names too. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't mention none of that. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just crazy. And then you see, what's his name? Hussein Jang, you know, they traded him and now he's balling out. You know what I'm saying? He just couldn't get on the floor there, but you know what I mean? And now he's out here killing it. You know what I'm saying? But look, man, you know what I'm saying? To recap, Mr. Logical is changing his finals from OKC over the Knicks to OKC over the Pistons. I'm keeping my finals the same, Denver over Cleveland. You know, Mr. Logical has Cade Cunningham as his MVP.
Yep.
I got Jaylen Brown. So, you know, we'll see how it plays out. I think SGA is probably going to win it as long as he doesn't miss a lot of games.
I just hope that we don't go to do the group think team. You know, it's
like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, especially if somehow Jokic ends up missing these 3 or 4 games that he can't miss, and it's going to be SGA without a Jokic barrier against dudes that are just now getting to the dance. You know what I mean? Because we talk about this a lot. Yeah, we talk about this a lot.
You got to do it. You got to do it 1 year at an MVP level, and then next year they put you real consideration.
Right.
So the real consideration right now is SGA and Jokic per the voters. Like, if there's a spreadsheet, those guys are gold at the top and everybody else is silver. And then if Jokic doesn't make his 65 games, then you just got SGA sitting there, and it's like, if he hits his 65, the spreadsheet's going to say, the analytics sheet's going to say, vote for SGA. I mean, I get it, because that's been the kind of narrative.
And you know what else, too? I just thought about, I think that what's going to hurt Jaylen Brown, besides
it's a regular season award, though, Mike. So by the time the playoffs come, that the vote will already be in.
I think he's responding to our championship picks.
The championship. Oh yeah.
But like the thing I was just thinking about, though, is the thing that hurts a guy like Jaylen Brown also additionally is the era that we're in, because it's all about the analytics now. And, you know, Jaylen Brown is an analytics nightmare. Like, he is not efficient at any level. You know, so I think that these nerds are going to like hold that against him because, you know, they don't like his, you know, true shooting percentage or just something along those lines. Like, it's going to be the nail in his coffin as well.
Can't argue with 23, 15, and 13 tonight.
No, you cannot. You cannot.
Yesterday against
you know what I mean?
Golden State.
Yeah, and but I do think that there's something to that, what I'm saying? Because if Minnesota could stop losing dumbass games, Ant would probably get some MVP votes.
Ant dropped
But they be
40.
losing some dumb games, man. They be
I
losing
think
dumbass games.
Ant's gonna get your MPP, your most popular player. I think he's the guy. I think people just like him. He's a likable guy. Prime. He has a show on Prime. I think he's just
Was
gonna
it
be
Rich Paul
everywhere.
recently? There was someone who just said that Anthony Edwards is the best player in the league.
I don't know if he's the best player in the league. I think he's the best personality in the league. But let's keep it real. This is America. All the baby mamas will make it tough for you to be the face of the league. Like let's keep it real. It's a political position.
You know what's crazy about that? Half of the people judging him on that spend half their time trying to get it too. They just pull out. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
but
I get it. I'm not by no means am I judging.
That's a good one, Mike. I like that. I like that a lot, Mike. That's a good one. I think even though I will say Ant performs better in the playoffs than Lamar Jackson does.
Yeah, Ant is just. I think he's a breath of fresh air. If Lamelo Ball, matter of fact, as we're going to transition into the show, and we should do get off my chest. I want to get this off my chest. Lamelo Ball got in a car accident, and it happens. Unfortunate. From the videos, I know, like, I'm not breaking it down or anything. I'm just looking at it just kind of looked like he wasn't paying attention. Maybe texting, but he swerved and he hit. Like his brother seen a swerve on that corner, whoa, whatever. He's, he just kind of veered into this other lane, hit a Kia. He had like that souped up SUV tank looking vehicle. It ripped the tire off. And the only video I saw of him exiting the vehicle, he got out of the vehicle he was driving and then got into another one, and that one drove off. So I don't know if he personally got out and spoke to the other person driving the other car, or if he even was concerned with this person. So, because he literally opened up his driver's side door, they opened up the passenger side door of like another Lamborghini truck or something like that. Somebody came to pick them up, and he just hopped into that. This is all video. Like I said, I don't know how it was cut or whatever. I don't know if he spoke to anyone. The cops were walking around with clipboards. So I'm imagining the report was documented. I don't believe he fled the scene, but it looks like he was getting out of that vehicle for the first time, getting into another one and driving off. And then when he did the press conference talking about it, he didn't have a shirt on. He had a towel around his neck. And then when he got up, he was sagging his sweatpants under his ass. His whole ass was out. It's like, yo, Cooper Flagg is a rookie. And if he got in an accident on the way to the stadium, he would have handled that press conference a lot better. He would have handled with a level of professionalism that warrants the position you're in. Let's stop fronting. You are a rich kid. Your brother raps and you have a lot of tattoos and you like dogs, but you are a rich kid from the suburbs of California, which makes you extremely rich to the rest of the country. Stop fronting because you got all these tattoos like a tough guy. Clarence's parents have a real good marriage. We've seen it on TV. Like, stop fronting and be respectful, be professional, and sit up there professionally. Pull your pants up, put a shirt on, answer the questions properly, speak to the person that you got in a car accident with because it was your fault. You were in their lane. I mean, just handle yourself with a level of respect and dignity that's owed to the position that you're in. And stop acting like a tough guy. Your brother never swerved on any corners. He stole some stuff from the store and had to beg Trump to get him out. Cut it out. I'm sick of these fake tough guy dudes in the NBA because you have paint on your skin. It is paint and ink. You're not tough. Be respectful to the position that you're in. You could have really, really, truly harmed someone. You're probably going to get sued, which I get. You don't want to give anything away, but it's like at least at a minimum, extend yourself to the person that you crashed into to make sure they were okay.
Are you okay?
I just don't
Are you okay? Because the other night,
I don't like fronting. I just don't when people front.
No, the other night you made this comment about how you were looking back at our old videos and how much our faces changed and all this kind of stuff like that. And now you're literally sitting up here having a get off my lawn moment.
I just think, it just was so like I said, I'm raising young men. My youngest son's an athlete, and I talk to him all the time about his conversation that he has with college coaches, because I don't facilitate those conversations. They go through like one of his coaches, either a 7-on-7 coach or his high school football coach. So a lot of those conversations are just like things I taught him growing up, things his mother taught him growing up, and things he learns from his brother and things he learned from his grandfather as far as like being respectful, and then applying that publicly when I'm not around. So when you meet these coaches, chest up, chin up, shake your hand, say your whole name, all these things that we taught him over the time. If I were to see him talk to a college coach after a 7-on-7 football game and he's already taken his shirt off and he's like, yeah, I go to Northern. Yeah, I'm a junior. Yeah, I have a good GPA. I would slap him. But this man is a grown man in the NBA and he talks to reporters like it's their fault he got in an accident on his way to work. I don't know. I just thought the whole thing was just demeaning. They just cut out the tough guy shit. I get it. My kids are half white. I know it's like it was always a narrative like, oh, the light-skinned kid, not tough. Then you got Matt Barnes kind of changed the mold. Don't forget about Malcolm X, shout out. But like, you don't have to be. You don't have to be this fake tough guy. It's unnecessary.
I have no idea what's happening.
I'm so mad. I was so mad about it. I was so mad because that's what it's all about. It has nothing to do with the fact that on top of the fact you didn't take any accountability for the accident, which was your fault. I get it. For the lawyer's sake, you can't say everything because you're gonna get sued. There's cameras everywhere. You're gonna get sued. You're an NBA player, whatever the case may be. But like they asked him a question, he was like, just God is good. I'm just glad to be here. Just it's an accident. It's unfortunate. It's like, hey, I really hope they're doing okay. It's very unfortunate this happened. I had my people reach out. Something. Give me something. Like Cooper Flagg would have handled that a lot better. SGA would have handled that a lot better. Anthony Edwards would have handled that a lot better. Stop acting like a tough guy. You're not. You're a tattooed basketball player. Show some respect for your craft and your position. And for what LeVar did. LeVar was vilified for being a tough dad. He did a great damn job. And you're out here acting like he didn't put that work in to be a good father to you. Because that's not a man with a good father doesn't behave like that. And that's what pissed me off the most. Tag him in this.
Last question, just so we can have a little chuckle before we get out. I
get in my dad grind, man. You see the dad gang. I was legit, man. I was legit pissed.
What are you looking more forward to? Mike versus Floyd or Ronda versus Gina?
Man, I think it's more exciting to sleep without my CPAP than either one of those fights. I think that's more exciting in the morning than but realistically, Ronda versus Gina, I don't know if they ever did it in a movie. I think that'd be dope. Mike versus is just
I'm going with the girl fight. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
I misogynist, if you will.
I hope it doesn't happen. I hope somebody has a hangnail and they don't do it.
I know, and they're fighting in the Congo too. You know what I'm saying?
I just hope somebody has a hangnail so it doesn't show up on TV or any kind of social media feed, so I don't get any clips of it.
No,
I don't want to see Mike Tyson's ass out again in another pre-fight interview because it's just unnecessary.
Now I want Ronda Gina because I think, and I'm not the biggest MMA dude. I like it, but I'm not as into it. But I just feel like that's one of those dream fights that could have actually happened at some point. And we didn't get it.
One was like the like Joe said, Jay already paved the way. I'm just laying my cement. Like Gina Carano paved the way, and I think Ronda Rousey laid the cement, and then Amanda Nunes put up the street signs. I think it was a building.
Nunes was supposed to come back last month, but but they had to postpone. But she's like trying to come back to actual UFC. These ladies are just fighting. Mike and Floyd, I think I'm excited for the personalities. You know what I mean? That's about it. But the weight class difference.
Talk about it.
The weight class difference is way out of proportion for me. And then, so like, we'll see. I mean, I would love to see Mike knock him on his ass.
I can't believe you even are. We saw when he fought Jake Paul how he had to eat his glove. You think Floyd's gonna have a less restrictive contract than Jake Paul? Who wants to, who are you?
I don't know, because I feel like as the TB. I feel like if you're gonna call yourself TBE, can't do that.
Between Jake Paul and Floyd Mayweather, which one of them is willing to be punched in the face by a heavyweight?
Jake Paul.
Exactly. He still had it written in his contract that Mike couldn't hit him. You think Floyd's going to just be like, "Know what? We good." No.
Well, apparently he should have added that to his last contract.
Anthony Joshua did not care. I think Anthony Joshua because Anthony Joshua first, shout out to Eddie Hearn. We're going off tangent, but I believe it was like, I'm gonna call it 2.5 years ago, maybe early 2024, 2023 time frame. Eddie Hearn was like doing like an interview, was being recorded, and they asked him about when this was Jake Paul was like starting to look for boxers, like he was looking more for boxers, and Anthony Joshua's name was one of the names that popped up. And he was like, I took it to Anthony. He said absolutely not. He said it in like that real British accent. And then that's when Anthony Joshua ended up, like probably like a year later, he fought Francis Ngannou. I'm like, wait, you were just very against the Jake Paul thing. And I believe he's like, you know what? Let me put this Jake Paul thing to rest. And because he probably only went about 60% with those punches. Because I've seen him cripple Klitschko. And Klitschko is Anthony Joshua's size, probably bigger. He probably walks around bigger than Anthony Joshua. So if you can make a giant Russian's whole body lock up with a hook, this YouTuber from Ohio stood no chance. I think he probably was like, all right, we've been dancing around here long enough. I'm sweating. I'm going to punch you in your face and we're going to wrap this up. All right. LeBron is on the floor. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, no. See, I ain't even got to. If y'all didn't notice, I'm not in my house. I'm in an Airbnb right now because I got some work going on because my washer overflowed. So I ain't got a TV with me right here. So, I can't even report right now. But we will be back on Tuesday, with much, much more. He is the one and only world famous, world renowned, cool, calm, and collected, representing 100%. Everything New Jabroos. He said the Jets and the Giants belong to him, and the Bears are just now getting the message. He is Mr. Logical. You know what I'm saying? Don't bring feelings to a fact.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, it's your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. One of these fights, they better keep their head on the swivel or they're going to be going down. You know what I'm saying? I do believe in Joe Hendry. I go by the name of 2-5. This is Sports Reports is Ordered. Everywhere you get your podcasts, live in effect. We love y'all. Bang, bang. You know what I'm saying? Bang, bang, dad gang. Holla back. See y'all in a few days. Enjoy your sports this weekend. Don't forget, we got Duke and Michigan tomorrow. Duke and Michigan. Let's get it. Out.
Reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Hey. Sports reports, no